Okay, I'm just going to talk about coach licensing. This is something we've identified as Scottish rowing. It doesn't currently exist within British rowing. But I'm going to give you a bit of background about what licensing is in terms of governing bodies of sport, what we're looking to do with it, and then hopefully we'll get the buy-in of the entire sport. It is, for me, it's a culture change. But it should embed all the stuff we've already spoken about, the CPD, the coach education, etc. And hopefully it will underpin everything and give us a bit of guidance as to why. And we talked about monitoring the coaches and supporting coaches. We need a method, basically, of capturing that information. So, but what is coach licensing? It's a governing body recognition that coaches are appropriately qualified and also meet a number of minimum standards, such as being appropriately insured and having been subjected to safeguarding checks. That's a broad overview. That's the Sports Coach UK overview of what a coach licensing is. It doesn't necessarily have to be as specific as that, but it'll just give you an idea. For me, it's quality assurance from a governing body to outside agencies that our coaches are safe and effective. That's what coach licensing is. It's quality assurance. So why licensing? There are a lot of governing bodies of sport, and this has predominantly been driven through England, but it's starting to creep up in Scotland now as well. There are a number of other Scottish governing bodies that have now taken on board licensing. It's schemes that recognise coaches who are qualified, and we're talking qualifications. It comes back to what you were talking about, Chalky, transition, qualified in terms of UKCC standard, being the national standard for coaching qualification with many sports. It also recognises coaches who are actually active, so we can actually track if they're active or not. So people will come onto courses, they'll do a UKCC course, whether it be a CV building exercise, whatever. However, we never see them again, or they're not actually active within our clubs. So that, therefore, we need to get recognition of our coaches are actually active. It meets minimum standards that the sports teams are required to coach in their sport. So it's basically for us to shape. There's no actual government legislation, this is what it must look like. It's for us to shape, which gives us a bit of leverage in how we're going to do it. It recognises that our coaches stay current by regularly undertaking and continue personal development and maintain licence status, part of many schemes. Okay, so we spoke about CPD. We recognise the fact that in order for our coaches to progress, they need to continue learning. Coaching is a cycle of learning, okay? Even at the top stages, which I hope our next speaker is going to confirm, you still continue to learn. You're never a finished product. So this underpins that as well. As well as the quality assurance element of schemes, coach registration and licence schemes, we call it as a licence, require coaches to meet a minimum set standards. Governing body sports also have schemes in place. So we're talking generic here. This is again coming from Sports Coach UK. So we have schemes in place to ensure frequent communication with coaches. We talk about the need to improve our database and our communication to coaches, offer better targeted support and benefits to coaches, speaking about mentoring and engaging with our coaches to actually drive them down the direction that they want to go, needs and wants of coaches. What does a Scottish rowing licence look like? We've had loose discussions about this, and we've kind of shaped it around how we feel it is achievable without being too onerous on our coaches. We've spoken about the library of CPD that is now available. So for me, and for indeed the Coaching Workforce Advisory Group, we think this is probably the best route to go. We'd licence our coaches for 3 years. So if you're a UKCC level 2 coach, your qualification is your qualification. We can't take that away from you. But in order to be quality assured within Scottish rowing, we'll say there's your licence for 3 years. The condition of the licence is that you'd have completed 9 CPD workshops over 3 years. That equates to 3 workshops a year. Those can be the online coaching workshops we're talking about. They could be the Sports Coach UK workshops we're talking about. It could be the Coach Connect, Coaching Talents workshops. It could be a multitude of things. It could be even just attending seminars. You'd evidence that to us basically by providing a certificate, say you've attended that course, or you've got your tickets, for example, that you had for this event. You just supply them, say that I've attended that event. Pretty simple. Within those 3 years as well, you must have up-to-date first aid and safeguarding, child protection training. Those are 3 years valid anyway. So as licensed coaches, just not the thing down. As licensed coaches, we'd hope you'd be revising that every 3 years and keeping the qualification up to date. So what is the process we're going to do? It needs to be a rollout. We understand that it's a new process. We need to go and actually pilot it to get an understanding if it works or not. The 12 guinea pigs we got downstairs currently attending the level 2 course were informed yesterday they're going to be our guinea pigs for the licensing. So don't panic just yet. So they're going to take it forward for the next 12 months just to see if they can actually achieve it. We think it's very much achievable. We'll review that next year. Okay, going over transition from December to January, review how that's been rolled out, and if in fact it is workable, practical. This will be the Coaching Workforce Advisory Group. We'll come back on the feedback, and maybe we'd either take bits out or put bits in, because we need to make sure that it is exactly as it says. It's quality assurance of our coaches are operating as safe as possible. 2016, we'll look to license all our UKCC level 2 coaches. So that's that's starting the 3-year process of licensing, and then subsequently any new people that come in, they'll arrive on the journey of level 2 coaching. We'll have to have an annual review and feedback. So this is where our communication will start opening up between coaches, governing body and the Coaching Workforce Advisory Group. So we get an understanding that what we're doing is right for the sport and that all coaches have actually got buy-in on it. There's no point in us rolling something out if the coaches haven't got buy-in on it. It's a very quick overview, but I'm hoping it's going to provoke some debate and discussion. Do you want me to go back to that one there so you've got an idea?
So what's the incentive for a coach to do this?
That we're quality assuring you. So as a governing body, so for example as a club, if you want to engage in schools, there's going to be a difference between a quality assured coach or somebody will say we don't really know what they practice like. They haven't upgraded their coaching certificate. They've got the qualification, but they haven't gone down any continuous learning.
So, big devil's advocate, I've got a guy at the club who's been coaching since he was 16 himself. He's now in his 70s. Doesn't hold a single qualification, but is a damn good coach.
Well, this is where we're trying to address. So
what's the incentive for that person to get engaged with the scheme?
When you bring in the licensing, I was involved in licensing with another sport. There's going to be that initial, what would you say, concern from older coaches who've been coaching all their lives and they've never done anything wrong, and I'm okay at what I do. And it's actually to get an understanding of what coaching is and what a coaching cycle is, and actually the progressive learning of coaching. There will be people that don't want to do it, which is fine. But when we come onto the workshop later on, which is our club accreditation scheme, this will fit into it as well. So the club accreditation fits in with licensing. So we're actually recognising and quality assuring our coaches within our clubs.
I think you've got to have a better sales pitch to the individuals. Just saying it gives a quality assurance means nothing to a lot of people. You either have sanction, you don't coach, unless you've got a licence, which would be an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. Or there is a carrot, and I think the carrot needs to be made much more explicit and seems to be beneficial to the individual as well as the club. Yeah. Because there are plenty of people will go to schools, they'll have safeguarding and all the rest of it, but they won't necessarily have a licence as you described it, and could deliver sessions to schools on behalf of a club.
Mm-hmm.
It happens now, it'll continue to happen. So it's not going to stop that happening. So I think that we need to work through with the group, with the coaching group, is how you're going to make it attractive to people. I think it's also when you're dealing with outside agencies, clubs engaging with them, that things are going to evolve around, that they are going to start looking around that. Like I said, it's something that's creeping into Scotland at the moment. It's not across the board. There are governing bodies that have got licensing, other governing bodies don't. When it becomes a case that all governing bodies of sports have licensing schemes, schools will be asking that as a minimum requirement for coaches going out. So I think as rowing, like I said, it's going to be a pilot process for 12 months. We can review it. The coaching advisory group will agree. What does it look like? Is there going to be sanctions? Is there going to be what is the carrot for doing it? And then we can come out with it.
There's somewhat to what I'm saying, because basically what you're saying is spend this money be registered. There's nothing.
Just,
and the last bit is all the safeguarding child protection training.
yeah.
There's a lot of coaches that will only ever coach at universities. They don't need it.
Well, that's not strictly true. That's
no,
not.
they're not vulnerable. As soon as they're at university, they're not classed as a vulnerable adult.
That's not strictly true, Alan. We actually went.
Universities don't class
I've just said. Yeah.
It's still to be disclosed.
There's differences between the approach of how the universities treat under 18s who happen to be at university.
Yeah, they're deemed as vulnerable adults, therefore they come under the child protection legislation. Yes, that's the truth. We've gone through the process with Glasgow University just recently, and it's something they highlighted as a deficiency in what they do. So that was good.
So practice and procedure has not been is not in line with what should be done.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Second one, national governing bodies. I know football did some years ago. They've got a licensing scheme for their coaches, and it came into existence, and it was very strictly no license. You're not coaching. You're not insured.
Yeah.
It was very strict. And I know that they lost a few people.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There will be a drop off. The people are going to. Well, if we put sanctions in, yes, we will lose people. But that said, is it a positive thing in the sport that we're bringing new people that are understanding continuous learning? And it may well be the sport that I was involved in before, when they brought in licensing, there was a big drop off, and it also coincided with UKCC coming in. So it's a case of you transition from your old coaching course in the UKC, and by the way, you're getting licensed. So there was a drop off in coaches, and that was just the culture change. So we have to have either, we look at the future. What does it look like? This is the here and now, but in the future we may have lost one or two. But do you know what? We're going to have a better quality coaching workforce.
So some of these older coaches, it's basically all they needed to do is get the first aid certificate, which is a one-day thing, and the child protection training. And if they're prepared to go through that, then everything else should follow. I mean, they can do accreditation of prior learning, I would hope, to be able to do online tutorials for getting your level 1, level 2.
Exactly. And I think part of the licensing, we said the online modules, most of the online modules are an hour, so that's 3 hours in a year. Yeah. If that's a minimum standard we're setting, I don't think that's onerous on coaches at the moment.
I think it encourages people, myself included, to actually keep up to date. It's easy enough, we go off, we do a level 2, then we go where we're coaching, and maybe a few years down the line we bump into someone and we realise that some of the things we learned on that level 2 are actually out of date now, but we weren't aware of it. And there's a sense of complacency, I think. I suffered from it myself. I had it in my own professional body, which has now become accredited, and I've got to do so much CPD a year. And I found it challenging to start with, but now there's a greater sense of pride in being part of that organisation. And I think registered coaches will have that. What's in it for us is that we actually go, hey, I'm a registered coach.
Mm-hmm.
There's that extra level of kudos associated with coaching and being a member of the sort of Scottish Road coaching force, of having that registration, as well as raising the standard, as you say, the quality over the sport in its entirety.
I think the other thing as well is if you are a coach, and you're exactly right, you go and do your course, you go, well, you can get stale in what you're doing, and then it's not until you actually attend something with other coaches and you listen to them, you become re-enthused, if you like, and go away with different ideas. So it's part of that, and it's part of that learning cycle that we're looking to implement. Now, licensing is the term. Like I said, your qualification. We can't stop the qualification. That you've gone through that process, you've got the certificate, and that's through an accredited body that's approved you as competent. And I think we have to just understand what the qualification is. You're approved as competent, not the completed model of a coach. So this is what we're trying to implement. We can have all the CPD in the world online or courses, but what does it actually mean to people to do it? And if licensing is part of it, and it's a recognition that they're working and they're quality assured coaches, then so be it.
There's 2 points, but I think from a sort of club management point of view, wholly supportive of this, but I think just to touch on what Chalky was saying, we're going to need something where the clubs can assist the older and more experienced and less qualified coaches through, because a lot of them will just take a reaction to this, and from what Chalky was saying, it sounds like there's a fairly straightforward, simple impact that can be done with the more senior coaches to get them on board. The second point is that I think for trying to recruit new coaches, if we are now going, a few years ago there was this emphasis on getting all new coaches qualified. If we're now moving to maintaining a competency absolutely critical that there's a stepping stone between a totally unqualified coach and this.
Yep.
And this is where the level one thing is, has to come on board.
Yep.
We talked about this a year and a half ago, and we need to get something happening here.
Yep.
Otherwise, people will see that what was voluntary commitment previously at relatively little expense is now becoming much more of a responsibility that they might not be so keen to undertake.
Yeah. I think in order to answer the expense, there will be minimum on the expense. We've broken a deal with the online learning company that they give us 20 places to do 3 courses for free, so we can identify 20 people a year. So the bedding in period may be year 1 we'll put 20 through, year 2 we'll put another 22, so on and so forth, free of charge. We've also got the subsidy through Sport Scotland, which supports Coach CPD. So if it is Sports Coach UK course, which is 20 quid for 3-hour evening, we can subsidise that as well as your first aid and all the other bits that go with it.
I appreciate that not every other coach perhaps in the same situation we are, but cost has never been a concern
Yeah.
for people doing this because we've been able to get support through Glasgow Life and other parties. But there may be something for Scottish Rowing to develop. There's going to be further support through the clubs to finance any concerns that individuals have.
Yep. Well, we will go through the 12-month process with our 12 guinea pigs downstairs. I said we'll have the review, and then we should publish your findings around February next year. From that, we'll start the rollout, and that's based on UKCC coaches. So if we're talking the older coaches that are still down the older qualification, yes, we need to get them through their APL as well. But we're looking at UKCC level 2 coaches to start with, to get them through, and then they can come on board as and when they complete the qualification.
You said that the onus will be on the coach to present the certification in
Yeah.
the attending a particular course. Have you looked at the other way around, that actually Scottish Rowing maintains the register, maintains a database of what people have done as direct feedback from the courses themselves that attendees
Yeah.
signed into?
We will be doing that as well. Obviously with the online we can monitor that, but if they do stuff through local authority, we've spoke about the communication link between the local authority governing body, it may be a need. But we are working on a cloud system, so basically it'll be uploading it and then we can pick it up in our system, so there won't be any post it to us type thing. It's a scan, shove it onto the cloud, and then we can pick it up within their accounts type thing. So that's the type of things we're working on. We've discussed it, we know what it looks like, the cloud forum, but we haven't quite put it together yet. But that's where we'll go with that. So it'll be a lot of online stuff, so it wouldn't be post things in and stuff like that, it'd be just uploading it.
But somebody still has to administer it.
Yeah, it should be pretty simple from our side of things. We have got a new administrator coming in with that talent. So.
Yeah. Training database is not necessarily straightforward.
Is there anything else on licensing? I was hoping for more than that.
We'll get more when it gets out to the
Oh,
clubs.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I was gonna
absolutely.
say-
Thought to go.
There'll be a lot of mumblings.
Yeah, of course there will.
Because we've got a lot of coaches, and we think that these long-term coaches, most of them don't have a qualification, have got no interest whatsoever in being qualified with any sort of bits of paper. But they're bloody good coaches, and I think this might just piss some of them off big style. And we think these coaches, we would struggle to have the coaching structure in the club that we have.
Do you think that it's essential for clubs to have all of their coaches licensed?
Well,
And therefore it's not essential that all of the coaches get licensed if they don't want to be, but for clubs to have some licensed coaches means that they can then show to any funding bodies or to schools that they work with, etc., that there is that level. I think the two things can coexist, particularly for the older coaches who've been doing this for a long time, but there is an encouragement and there's an opportunity to upgrade some of the skills maybe.
so moving forward, all new coaches should be licensed, but
Yeah.
some of the older ones that.
You can't make a horse go to water. as
Yeah,
they say.
exactly.
You can't.
Yeah.
But that said, going back to what we discussed before, we're looking for mentors as well. So those people will probably make the ideal mentors within regions. If that, you know, they've got knowledge, experience. It doesn't necessarily translate into formal qualification, but for me, you know, that's invaluable.
And there'll always be people who are clubs that nobody's going to be qualified. They need people still to teach people your own. There's always going to be ones who, just because they've run for 10 years, are going to do coaching.
Yeah.
You're not going to get rid of that.
No, well, that's the. But,
No, that's what I'm saying. It's never going to. There's always be unofficial coaches.
we'll probably
They might be called coach, but
we'll probably park that thought for a session later on this afternoon, because I think that fits nicely into our club accreditation. But yeah, we'll speak about that then.